Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are joining us from. Welcome to our Data Sheroes webinar. My name is Eunice Baguma Bol, and one of the co-founders of Ishango.ai, who are hosting this session today. And I'll be giving you a quick introduction about us. Kaizen, welcome. Thanks for that comment. Anyone else who wants to say hi in the chat, feel free to sort of drop a hi, tell us where you're joining from. I'm in London right now. It is 4 p.m. for us, so starting to get a bit dull, but it would be great to hear where everyone is joining us from. So we're going to have we're going to spend the next 45 minutes together. And in this time, I'm going to have our speakers joining us to share their journeys. Really, the goal of these sessions are to bring role models, women in data science who are making an impact in their field, to understand how they got into the field, what are the opportunities and challenges they've met along the way, and to just learn something new, to showcase that data scientists, data science, can look like us, women are working in the space and the contributions they're making. Welcome, Nomsa from Malawi. So allow me to just do a quick introduction about Ishango and what we do, and then we can dive right into our fireside chat today. So we at Ishango, our goal is to be a bridge between Africa's top data science talent and global businesses. We are a social enterprise with a mission to create high-skilled jobs and really demonstrate that there's a lot of wealth of talent across the continent. We run a program, a data science fellowship program, which is 2 months. It says here that it's residential. That's not the case anymore. We're now fully remote, and we're able to run the program from wherever it is the talent is based. So wherever you are across Africa, we're able to have you join the program. During the program, you have a data scientists will have the ability to develop their technical and soft skills, and they actually get to work directly on real projects for real companies. And all this time working remotely, so you get to remain in your local country, actually making an impact and contributing to the development of skills there as well. So how it works, we usually get projects from companies, which we scope out the project, clearly define what are the outcomes and what are the expectations that the client would like out of the project. These are usually data-based challenges, or whether it's building an AI or machine learning solution, or creating some data analysis that can allow them to make key decisions to drive their innovation and growth. We then, based on the project scope from the company, go about finding the right talent that have the skills and passion that are a right match for the project. So we go through technical assessment and interviews with our senior data scientists. So basically, to be ready for this program, you already need to have that technical background. You already need to have your coding skills. You already need to have completed some courses in data science within your education, or completing online courses. And then we kind of support and build and develop on that existing skill base that you have. Once we go through the process of matching talent to project, we then get into the project delivery phase. This is an 8-week period where you work as full-time on the project, integrated into the international team, a company that you're working with, and with support from our in-house senior data scientists to support you and making sure that you're able to deliver the very best outcome for the company, but also really make sure that it's a great and professional growth experience for you. Ultimately, what we want to see at the end of the project delivery is for the company to be very happy with what you've delivered and continue to offer you a further contract to continue to work with them. There are several ways to get involved in Ishango. So one is, if you're a company that has a data need or data project that we can support you with, you can become a data science project host, and you get 2 dedicated data scientists to work on your project with support from our senior data scientists. And we handle all of the logistics and admin around making sure they're ready to actually provide their skills for your project. You can also volunteer as a mentor with us. So during the the period where data scientists are delivering the two months project. They get expert sessions, different exposure to different experts on various topics on data science, soft skills training, very rigorous presentation training, and also career guidance and mentorship to figure out, because data science is quite a broad field. So really trying to figure out where it is that you maybe want to take your career, we can actually sort of support and give mentorship around that. And thirdly, you could be an education partner. So whether it's promoting our program to your students and graduates, providing access to data science courses for our community, or hosting a program at your institution. So that's just a little bit about us. You can learn more about Ishango at ishango.ai, and we'll also be and on our social pages. And also, as you've signed up for this event, we'll probably get communications from us about upcoming programs and our activities. So that's just briefly about us. So now, without further ado, I'm going to invite to the digital stage my two speakers for today, Christiana Onoja, who is the founder and director of Partnership for African Women Advancement, and Yvette Kondo, who is a data scientist who's worked for quite a few years in the data science field for some of the leading companies. So can I ask Yvette and Christiana to join me, please? Welcome, Yvette.
Hi, Eunice.
And
Hi, Christina.
Stop sharing so that we can see your lovely faces much clearer.
Hi, is that you?
Hi, Christiana. Welcome.
Thank you. It's not to be here. Excited.
We can't hear you quite clearly. But let's hope.
Oh, you hear me? Hello?
Hello. Do you want to try, because you keep freezing a bit, do you want to try maybe turning off the video? I mean, it's sad to not be able to see you, but it would be better if we could actually hear you. So maybe let's try without the video on, just so we can make sure we can hear you well. Could you try again and just say hi to us, Christiana? No. All right, technology is failing us right now, but Christiana, maybe try getting off and rejoining. And as we wait for Christiana to rejoin, I will start with you, Yvette. Very, very, very welcome.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, and I'm very, very curious to hear about you and what you do. So I'll just start by asking you to do a very brief introduction about yourself and kind of your experience to date as a data scientist, and then we will dive into the full story.
Yeah, sure. First of all, I want to thank you for the opportunity to actually share my journey. I'm always excited to do things like this because I see how important it is when you see someone that you're aspiring to be like, or even better. Yeah. So as you said, my name is Yvette Kondo. I was born and I grew up in Ghana, and then I attended Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, and over there I got a bachelor's degree in actuarial science. And then I did my master's in the US at Loyola University in Chicago, where I got my master's degree in applied statistics. And I've been living with my husband here in the US, and been working as a data scientist for the past 7 years. Worked in different industries. My recent company was with as a marketing data scientist. I've worked with a nonprofit before. I've worked with something that was sort of like a startup and then evolved into a company. So I've had a bit of experience across board. Thanks.
Fantastic. So thank you so much for that introduction. Already I'm curious about what you said about working across all these different sectors, some of which are quite different from each other, and managing to do that. But could you just tell us from, just growing up, what you were aspiring to be, how did you actually end up in data science? Is this something that you planned? Is this something that you always wanted to do? And when did you even learn about it? How does one like discover this path and then kind of go down it? So just tell us a bit about your journey getting into data science and today.
Okay, so for me, no, the first question I would answer that is no. I didn't initially start out to be a data scientist. Actually, as a child, what I was more interested in doing was in a career that was purely science oriented. So I was initially started out wanting to be a pharmacist, and along the line, I was like, well, if I could be a pharmacist, I might as well just be a medical doctor. So that was the plan all along until I got to my senior high school education, and there I had an experience that made me pivot from the pure sciences into a math related course. So for that reason, when I got to the university, when I was going into the university, I went in with the mindset to pursue a career as an actuary. But I mean, I went through that and then went and did my master's. And I would say while doing the master's, I took a course in predictive analytics, and that really took my interest. At the time, I wasn't quite certain what I wanted to do, whether to be a pure statistician or what. But after school, after the master's program, I sort of stumbled on an ad that talked about a data science boot camp, and I was like, what's data science? And I started reading more about data science, and I said, well, it sounds interesting. Though a lot of things they were requesting for to be able to enter the boot camp were a lot of big tech tools like Spark, Python. At the time, I had none of those experiences or exposure. So even though I was interested, that was sort of like a barrier for me to enter into the field. Yeah. So I sort of started self-studying. I got a couple of friends knew people who were data scientists, so I started speaking to them, and I realized I really wanted to do data science. So I started with the self-study. But in the midst of that self study, there was so much to learn. And every time I put my mind to study, there was always a new topic that came up. At the time, I had to make up my mind that what I really wanted to do. Did I want to go the path of the data analyst, the data scientist, data engineer? I had to make those decisions to sort of help me stay focused. Even with when I decided to be a data scientist, I had to figure out whether I wanted to be a business oriented data scientist, so answering business problems versus building AI, tools where that's involving computer vision, natural language processing, and all that. So that 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 was some of the decisions I had to make, and thankfully I was able to scale through, and here I am now.
So it sounds like you were saying there is so much, data science is quite a wide field. There's so many decisions to make, which, sort of skill sets you're going to focus on, like you said, data engineer, analyst, or even in sectors. How have mentors or other people who helped you guide, how do you go about guiding and making those decisions, first of all? But also like, keeping going, right? Like you're saying, like it's you even, to get to an opportunity, you needed to have certain skills, and you didn't have the skills that, when I was talking about Ishango earlier, we were saying, you need to already have some of these skills before you can apply to Ishango. So having that perseverance to kind of keep going, but also figuring out, sort of navigating those spaces. Have any particular people like guided you? Have mentors played a role? And yeah.
Yeah, mentors have played a role for me, and I would also say, so I talked about a challenge that made me pivot from the pure sciences into a math related course. That was because in this when I entered the senior high school, I didn't, you know, I was exposed to too much information that made me too scared about elective mathematics or advanced mathematics. So my grades were very poor in those fields, in those courses, and it really, if I wanted to be a medical doctor, I needed to have good grades in math. So when I had a conversation with my parents about my fears and all that, they helped me, solve that challenge. I realized it had to do with my mindset. And that's where, along the line, I've also had the opportunity to read books that have really helped me hone my, like, try to manage my mind. Yes. And my mentor, like right now, that keeps me focused, is not a technical mentor, but it's my pastor, Reverend Dr. Chris Oyakhilome, who helps me. Like his books, his teachings have helped me keep my mind focused. And then a second mentor, like mentors were my bosses who gave me my first sort of major role, Timothy and Winfred Coating. They exposed me to a lot. They gave me the opportunity to actually grow, explore, and also it was more like a startup. So I got a chance to learn and own what I was doing. So that made me more interested in what I was doing. And personally, I was always signing up for um, like programs like this, just to get inspired, get to know what people were doing. And so for me, what helped me was I sort of made an idealistic resume. If I wanted a job, what are some of the techniques I wanted to have on my resume, my idealistic perfect world kind of resume. So I listed those, and it was sort of my focus now. So anytime I was able to achieve one of them, I sort of crossed it out. Like I have a hold on this kind of technique, this kind of tool. Yeah, so those things helped me keep the focus, yeah, along the way. So that's been helpful for me.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that, Yvette. And I see we're happy to say that Christiana is back. Christiana, can you say hello and see if we can hear you this time? Oh no, we can't hear you. Can you hear us? Oh dear. I just wonder in this brief sort of seconds, just say hi to everyone who is listening to us, who's joined us on YouTube. We have people from Kenya, Nigeria, South Africa. It's really, really great to see you guys. Sharon, Rebecca, Beulah, welcome to everyone. Nomsa, Kaizen. Please do ask your questions for Yvette as well in the chat. So you don't need to wait till the end to ask your questions. You can just type them in the chat as we go along, and I will pick them up as we go along. Christiana, are you able to? Could you speak, and we can see if we'll see if we can hear you.
Yeah. Hi.
Yay!
Hi.
We can hear you. Welcome.
I don't know if I because I think the video is basically affecting the internet.
Yeah.
So
no worries. We can hear you now, which is the most important thing. And we got to see you very briefly. So at least we could put a face to the name. Yes. So, yeah. So could you just, again, briefly introduce yourself, what, and, your organization, and then we will dive into, I have a couple of questions for you as well.
Okay. Hello, everyone. It's such an honor to be here. I'm super excited, and I've been looking forward to this conversation. I'm Christiana Onoja. I'm a proud African from Nigeria and a multifaceted individual with different background. And I'm super passionate about women, business, and humanity. And I try to find an intersection within all of my passion through technology. So it means that whatever I do with women is technically inclined. Whatever I do in business is technically inclined, as well as whatever I do in humanity is inclined in technology. So I'm a registered electrical electronics engineering here in Nigeria, and I'm a tech consultant. And I do my tech consultancy through my co-founded IT servicing company that is located here in Lagos, Nigeria. And I'm a gender equality advocate and the founder of Partnership for African Women Advancement. And at Power, we strive to empower women and bridge the gender gap in STEM through capacity building program. It's such an honor to be here, and I'm super excited to learn from everyone and also to share my experiences. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's talk about your organization, Power, so the Partnership for African Women Advancement. What drove you to set it up, and also maybe share with us some of the work you're doing? What, you mentioned you're in tech yourself, you're an engineer, you're working in the IT consultancy. What is Power doing, particularly around empowering women to enter the tech space, and specifically the data science? What's driven you? I know you mentioned that some of the work now is you see promise in the data science space, and also trying to sort of support women to enter more in that field. So, what inspired the setting up of Power? What's the work you're doing, and particularly what drove you to kind of focus in a bit more on this data science space?
Okay, thank you for that. Power Initiative really was founded out of my own personal experiences of discrimination faced by women in the STEM field. So, and also from my background, I come from Kogi State in Lagos, in Nigeria, where women are not accepted or allowed or seen as being qualified to pursue a certain career, and also to take up some leadership roles, right? So women are just seen as the helpmate in the house. So I've seen that happen over the years, and I was really curious to see how to bridge that gap. That's even from my own household. But however, growing up, my dad was a civil engineer. He so rest in peace. He was in engineering, and I saw how he was striving at every point in time. So I said, okay, for him to be able to do this, then as a female, I should be able to do something. And as little as 10 years old, I already said I wanted to study electrical electronics engineering, do a type of engineering, but not civil engineering that he studied. So post that, I got into school. I saw like a bit of maybe because of my experience, I started noticing the discrimination that women faced at an early age. And I got into the university too. It was the same thing, being in an engineering class and being amongst the 10% of women in that class, and seeing how we were treated, and also seeing how I'm a very fashionable person, and they say that, oh, you're not supposed to be fashionable in engineering. So that was also a part of it, right? So I saw all of those discriminations, and when I went into the workforce itself, I saw that this discrimination continued. But mine was different because I had mentors. Like I mentioned, I had support from my dad. So it wasn't a discrimination from my household, but discrimination from outside. And I was able to get guidance on how to maneuver my way in the workforce, being a woman in the STEM industry. But I looked at it that it was working, I was moving smoothly. I wasn't being affected by some of these discriminations solely because I had support. What about people that did not have this support that I had? I had two females on my team at the point when I got into the technology space as an engineer. But as we went further, I saw that the ladies dropped. I became the only female on the team with 5 engineers, male engineers at the point. So I thought that it was important to bridge that gap and help other people that necessarily did not have the necessary mentorship, the necessary support, and the necessary voice to speak up for themselves. And that was part of what the major driving force for why I created Power, to help women and girls build capacity, mentor them, and give them a striving opportunity. Well, that's for the reason why I created Power Initiative. But aside from that, what do we do at Power, and how we try to bridge this gap? We do capacity building programs through mentorship programs. So we do end-to-end mentorship. You're just leaving school as an undergrad. You can come on board with us and we mentor you, just guide you on the career path to follow. We're not one of those people that are always driving to be technical, being in STEM. You can also be in the business part. You can be in the service delivery part. You do not necessarily need to code to be in tech. So we mentor them, and we also do next generation mentors, where we go to the grassroots, people from secondary schools, and where we do all of those capacity building programs, mentorship programs, and just inspire them to take up STEM related courses, and in turn transition into the STEM field. Then thirdly, we also make impact through the data science bootcamp that we started last year. And the data science bootcamp was basically a bootcamp that was set up with different mentors doing exceptionally well in their career across the globe, as well as experienced trainers come on board to train entry level people that are willing to transition into tech, people that are already in tech but wanting to get into data science. And also, I mean, it's basically entry level. Our bootcamp is catering for entry level females interested in coming into data science. So last year it was an 8 weeks bootcamp where we inspired the students in the entry level curriculum on data analytics. But this year we have a plan to make it a longer period, because we believe that I think that period was quite short and we didn't really get as much impact as we would have loved to. So this year we intend to make it 3 months, a longer period, and also introduce them to data science related curriculums and not just data analytics that has to do with Excel, SQL, and the Power BI, but now go into in depth into machine learning and all other technologies that would be beneficial in the data science field. And I hope this has been able to answer a bit of your questions.
Yes, thank you so much. So thank you so much for sharing your own journey and experiences in tech, and also what you're doing at Power. I wanted to, before I move on with my next questions, pick up on some of the ones that have come through the chat. And I'm going to direct this one from Sharon to you, Yvette. And actually, it's just starting with Yvette, but again, feel free to pitch in Christiana as well. And her question is, what was the most challenging part in your data science journey as a career, and how did you handle it? So, yeah.
So is that the challenges I faced in transitioning into the workforce?
So in your, I think she basically is kind of looking for a scenario. So what was like the most, one or like maybe think about a challenge, because she's asking what's the most challenging part on your data science journey and how did you, I guess, overcome that? So whether it was entering a sector or getting a job, I don't know, on that journey, I guess, to date, what's like a big challenge you faced and how did you overcome that?
So for me, the biggest challenge, as I said, because I was self-taught, and initially entering the field, I didn't have hardcore coding skills. That seemed to be a limiting factor for me. So what I first did under certain circumstances I had to do some volunteering. So I used the opportunity to hone my Excel skills, and then started, trying to improve on my R skills, because that's what I was sort of good at, got my training in, and started doing pet projects. So that sort of gave me the confidence I needed when it came to my first interview, not my first interview, but the interview that finally got me my first job. So with that, I think for a lot of people, their challenge entering the workforce is the actual kind of work experience that you need, because work experience gives you some upper hand or edge because you are exposed to certain scenarios. So the way you answer your questions, makes you better positioned. But I wouldn't just say that is all. Programs like what Ishango is doing is very good because you get that hands-on experience, and based off of that, you can use that in your interviews. So for me, transitioning into actually moving from being the student data scientist to the actual, working in the workspace, that was probably the challenge I faced, but that's how I was able to address it to some point. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And this question I will start with you, Christiana. Nomsa is asking, how did you keep your voice heard even when you were the only woman in your engineering field? And I think you mentioned sometime you were like the only woman in this engineering team, and she says it can be intimidating sometimes. So how did you go about, sort of making sure you sort of stood your ground and make sure your voice was heard? Christiana, did you catch that question?
Sorry, yes, I caught that question. Thank you so much for that. And that basically speaks on my own personal experience and how I was able to transition, to be honest, because I mean, when I got into and I think it applies on to everyone in different fields, be it in data science or any field that you find yourself. And what I did particularly, it wasn't an easy task, but I kept on pushing. And that was also very possible because I had the necessary support and backing to keep pushing me or to reaffirm me that whatever I was doing was the right thing to do. So I remember then being the only female on the team with other engineers. And my line manager at the point wouldn't want me to go on site to deploy client related um, problems. They always wanted me to just be inside, internal support, but going to the client's environment, they wouldn't want me to go. They always make it look like, oh, you're not qualified enough. But I mean, I had my other colleague that was a male that was always being pushed aside. So I constantly always made my point clear. So I had to obviously read extra hard. I had to do extra tasks to put myself out there. If we had like the general meetings, for instance, I would study before the meeting. So when we are speaking, I'm speaking from an informed point. So I think the advice here is to actually own your skill, know what you're doing properly, be more knowledgeable on what you're doing. So when you're speaking from a knowledge-based perspective, and no one would actually question your competence. And what I did in my part then was we were offering networking solutions at the point, only networking solutions. And an opportunity came on board, which was a cybersecurity opportunity. At that point, people were not really selling cybersecurity solutions or deploying cybersecurity solutions in my environment. So the solution came then, and since we did not have clients, everyone ran away from studying the solutions or getting trained in the solution. So I thought that, oh, this would be an opportunity. And I went there and I literally took all the courses, I took all the trainings, and I became the expert in that field in the environment. So it meant that if anyone wanted to do anything relating to cybersecurity in the organization at the point, they had to come through me. They had to ask me on the next steps to go. I had to train the sales team at the point. I had to be the one to go to the client side to do necessary trainings on the solution. And I was even the one that had to train the other male members of my team on how the solution works and how it was being used. And because of that singular act that I did, I became the team lead for collaboration and security on my team. So what am I saying in essence? I'm saying that you should actually be knowledgeable, read, do what you need to do, and you might get a little discriminations here and there or get issues on your job. But once you know what you're doing, when the opportunity comes, you will be able to take.
Oh no. That was I think that was really, really brilliant advice. I don't know, Yvette, what
I
add
was
to that, because the idea that yes, be knowledgeable and make sure your skill cannot be questioned, but also like the idea of looking out for those opportunities, those gaps where it's stuff that other people don't want to do, or is kind of spotting out those opportunities. That's good advice for career, for life in general, right? It's about how do you give yourself that unique value proposition, right? Do you have anything to add, or any sort of also like anecdotes from your own career journey?
well, the issue about females being the least in number in a group is always something that I've experienced because I find myself in the STEM space. But I would say that sometimes uh, imposter syndrome, you know, creeps in, but you have to own your mind. For me, that's what has helped me. If you can help your mind stay focused, then you sometimes the biases that you see around, you may not even see them anymore, even though they exist. You see them differently, and then you react to them differently. So aside being knowledgeable and all that, you have to handle the imposter syndrome in a way, because it also tells on how you actually perform on the job. You may be good, but because you are questioning your skills and other people are helping you to question your skills, you would find that you are not giving off your best. And then, so when there are opportunities for to move up the rank, you don't even feel qualified. But if you start with your mind, if you can control your mind, then you can move through a bit more easily. That's what I would say.
Yeah, and I think that's really, really spot on advice as well. Like you said, you could be good, you could do all these things and actually have the knowledge, but then you could self-sabotage, right? Because you're
Yeah.
also, have that imposter syndrome. And I think when you're saying there's that battle in the mind that we need to continue to train our mind, it's key. And we always hear this thing of the mind is a muscle, right? And we think about people going jogging every morning, going to the gym. We really need to start to exercise these things and sort of reaffirming ourselves, or pushing yourselves and saying, I have to speak up when the opportunity comes, or when I see an opportunity I need to put myself forward. And like Christina gave that really sound advice, see a gap and say, I'm going to be the expert in this and people will come to me. I think is just really, really good advice. Christina, welcome back. We kind of lost you there at the bit, but I think I was just saying how you'd given us some really good strategic advice there. So I wanted to think about, we've talked a little bit about the challenges. I always like to kind of flip this conversation on its head and also talk about the opportunities, because often when we have these women in tech conversations, we kind of focus on the challenges, and really I feel like that always kind of puts us in survival mode. Like, how do you survive, train our minds. I always want to also think about the opportunity side, right? So I want you guys to give me ideas or examples of where being a woman in data science, being one of, a minority. I know, Yvette, you're now in the States, so you're a minority in a number of ways. How that has actually been an opportunity. Where has it been an added advantage? Where have you been able to bring perspective, skills to the table? We always hear about how diversity is very important and adds value to businesses. Is that something you've seen from your own personal contributions, and how has those different perspectives, or you being maybe underrepresented or different in certain ways, has brought value to your work and kind of also helped towards helping you advance in your career?
So for me, when we talk about opportunities, I see opportunities in terms of when I thought about opportunities as you asked it. For me, opportunities in terms of the fact that we have, because most times we are women, there are these opportunities there are for education. We have these educational programs that are free for you to join, sponsorships that you get to study courses at little or no cost at all. For me, if I talk about opportunities, the kind of opportunities I've had are in the workspace. So I've had the chance to, aside the technical skills, grooming myself technically, the soft skills side, where you actually get to join courses that help you with personal branding, for example, have been opportunities I've taken advantage of in the workplace. Because you could be good technically, but if you can't communicate your thoughts, if you can't, you are the product, right? But how you package yourself, your branding is important. If you're not able to, demonstrate how good you are, you wouldn't go that far. And so for me, those are like the kind of opportunities I look out for, those things that help me hone my skills, especially the soft skills, because the technical skills, there are opportunities for that, like through Shango and other, power and all that. But the soft skill side of things, it's really not emphasized even in the academic space. So I always look to build those soft skills through those kind of opportunities, and that's are found in the career space. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you. We're going to be wrapping up soon, so please do type any questions you have in the chat so we can address them. We've lost Christiana a little bit again, but hopefully she'll be able to join. So exciting to see where people are joining from. Florence from Malawi. Somebody's joining us from Italy. I think I saw a while back. So that's really, really great to see. There were a few people on here. I guess if there's no more questions coming in, there was a few people who typed in the chat and all were talking about how they're either trying to transition into the space or from another space, or just could you speak to, just in terms of any words of encouragement, any words of advice for people, particularly the ones where they're trying to go through that transition from one space to another, or one sector to another?
Yeah. So what I always tell people who want to transition, don't underplay the skills you've already acquired. For example, if you are a business person, you want to move into the data science space. I always see data science or data analytics as a top on career, because if your domain base is important for the work you do. So if you want to transition, if for example you are a nurse, for example, and you want to transition into the data science space, probably you might be transitioning into the healthcare space, right? And you need the knowledge of all you've learned medically, as well as the skills you've picked, soft skills, how you relate with people, how you communicate. You need all of that to be able to do well on the job. So that's when it comes to transferable skills, soft skills. Now, technically, I would say decide where you want to transition to. Decide. Most people find that starting from the data analyst side of things is easier as a lower entry point for them, because it's more about telling stories, building a story from the data. So, doing some visualizations and then telling the story of what the data is telling you. But you need to focus, decide, make those decisions. You need to decide, do I want to start as a data analyst, data scientist, or ML engineer? What particular tool do I want to start learning with? And one thing I learned from joining one of these programs was someone talked about, if you want to enter a particular job, look at the job specifications of a couple of roles that you like, and then choose the top 20% skill sets that are being requested for tools, and then build projects around that. Because in building the projects, you'll be learning the skills along the line. And if you are working in a field that you're already interested in, it's you own the projects yourself, you'll be more interested, because there would always be stumbling blocks. And if you are not that into what you are doing, because you don't even want, you're not excited about what you are doing, trust me, you stop it along the line and start another project again. So you need to have that focus, and then you have to decide, am I going into the business side of things? Do I want to be able to do I really want to be on the back end, technical wise? Do I want to be client facing? There are certain decisions you need to take. And anytime you want to enter into a new field, you need to learn the terminologies, because for me, that was a barrier at the beginning. I would find words meaning the same thing, but in different textbooks, they were mentioned differently. So but once I sorted out the terminologies right, it was easier for me to pick up on the concepts. So you need to address those terminologies, get them out of the way, like algorithm, model, be sure about everything, and then see apply the 80-20 rule in deciding which technique should I specialize in, which tool should I specialize in. And yeah, that's some of the tips I'll share.
Thank you so much for that. We're actually out of time now, and I was hoping that we would get some final words from Christiana, but we've seemed to have lost her again. But it's been really fascinating. Thank you so much, Yvette, for coming on to share your journey. We've talked about, some of the challenges we face and some strategies to overcome them, whether that is making sure we get specialists knowledge in certain areas, strategically positioning ourselves for success. Yvette, you emphasize the importance of soft skills, the importance of also of training our minds. Like a lot of the time, we build the technical sides, but then we get imposter syndrome and we end up self-sabotaging, or we end up missing out on opportunities because we're not able to leverage that. And when you were talking about people transitioning careers, I loved when you highlighted about valuing the skills that you've already built in your current sector, those transferable skills, as a great sort of platform to kind of launch into data science. And I think when you gave the advice of when you're trying to figure out where to go, finding those top 20% jobs that look like the jobs you want to work, and then kind of building the resource around the types of projects and courses you do around this is the end goal. Because I think, like you said, data science can be quite overwhelming in terms of the options. So I thought that was really solid, sound advice that we can take away and say, where do you want to end up? What's that job? What does it look like? And sort of work towards that goal. Christina, while we have you on, do you have any final words for aspiring female data scientists out there? We've lost her again. So thank you all to everyone who's joined us. It's been really exciting to see you joining us from all over. Please do follow us, Ishango, on our social media, our LinkedIn, our Facebook, our Twitter. We will be sharing key takeaways from this session, and we'll also be sharing the recording. But we're also always spotlighting different experts who are doing amazing work in the field, sharing more about just the work they're doing. Or we also share tips, resources where you can go on and develop your skills. Like Yvette mentioned, there's a lot of free resources out there, but also opportunities. So whether that be scholarship opportunities with our partners, please do continue to follow us, and we look forward to staying in touch. And if you're interested in joining our program as a data scientist as well, once you're a bit ahead in that journey, we also welcome. But please join me in thanking my speakers today, Yvette, and in absentia, Christiana, so much for coming on to share. Thank you so much, Yvette.
Thank you so much, Eunice and Ishango, for having me. And thank you everyone for listening.
Yeah, and thank you all who've joined us. Bye.